Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Sean Aylmer. 40% of consumer payments made by Australians are processed by the Commonwealth Bank. With consumer data covering 2.5 million households, the bank has an incredible insight into household financial habits. Every month, Commonwealth Bank has used that data to prepare its Household Spending Intentions report. But this week, the bank has launched a new Household Spending Intentions Index, showing a strong recovery in consumer spending in October. Belinda is Senior Economist at the Commonwealth Bank and co-author of the report. Belinda, welcome to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much for having me, Sean.
So why launch the new index? The report itself on household spending intentions has been coming out for quite some time. Why the index?
It's a really great question. So I think we wanted our clients, the businesses in Australia, consumers to have, one number that they could relate to every month. But to do that, we really wanted, a more comprehensive coverage of what consumers were spending on. So not only did we introduce the HSI index, but we also enhanced the spending categories that were included. So prior to the release on the 9th of November, we had around 55% coverage in the HSI, 7 categories. So what we have done now is we've introduced 5 new categories. So there's now 12 in total. And that's taken coverage to what consumers spend on to almost all of household consumption. So we've done that, and we've also introduced the index, which will really give us a great indication of how I think Australians are coming out of lockdown, really timely release.
That's a huge amount of data.
Yes.
You've obviously been using internal resources and data, but you've also used Google Trends information. Is that right?
That's correct. So we wanted an idea about not only what consumers are spending their money on now, but also what they intend to spend their money on. So to do that, we also include publicly available Google Trends data, and we've found that that does actually enhance our, predictive capabilities to look at how consumption is tracking. So on average, including the Google Trends data lifts the forecasting ability by around 15%.
Right. Okay. Nothing like having data tell you how much your forecasting ability is improving by. You are an economist, Belinda. No doubt.
That's so true.
So let's jump into it. Travel was the one that really jumped out in terms of over the last month. The percent change of this now, explain to me exactly what the 53% is saying to me.
So it's saying that what Australian households spent on travel went up by 52.7% in October compared to September.
I'm part of that, Belinda.
You are you? That's
absolutely.
Good.
Are you?
I am actually.
There you go.
I am. There you go. So I think what we've seen definitely with that travel category is if you look at some of the detail, we did see a big lift in spending on travel agents and airlines, obviously from a very low base. But what that travel category really is aimed at measuring is tourism.
Yeah.
Because we also have the transport category, which is really reflective of our day-to-day movements. But what is pleasing is with borders reopening, I think there's a lot of excitement out there to be able to travel, which I think we can count both of us as very keen travellers in the future.
That's right. So transport includes plane travel as well as public transport?
So transport covers things like fuel, car washes, tolls, taxis. So think about it more as your day-to-day mobility.
Yes, okay.
So that was up in October, I think, just with an easing of restrictions, but still lower compared to a year ago level. And I think that's really just from a lot more people still working at home.
Okay, the other big jump, and I'd imagine that over time some of these monthly rises won't be quite as high. Travel, for example, we won't get 53% or 52.7% all the time. Household services was the other one that jumped out, up 24% for the month.
Yes, definitely. So that's one of our new categories. So that includes items such as childcare, household cleaning, landscaping, electrical contractors, anyone coming into your house to do work, but also, as I said, that childcare as well. So I think that's really reflective, once again, of an easing of restrictions. You can now have more people in your home, just people getting ready to entertain. So that, as you said, went up 24.1% for the month and is up over the year as well.
Okay, on the other side of the ledger, home buying was the biggest drop. What's that mean?
It was. So what we're seeing with home buying is we've seen home loan applications up a little bit in October. But so the fall in the month was actually driven by a decline in Google searches for things like property inspections and appraisals.
Yeah.
So what we've seen over the last few months is home lending. This is in the broad economy come off a little bit, some question marks around changes to interest rate serviceability buffer from APRA, housing affordability. We've seen first home buyers come out of the market. So it's probably just reflective of those broader conditions where we have seen house price growth come off. Still up over the year, still up 12.4% over the year. But definitely we are starting to see maybe just a little bit of a slowdown in the momentum in the housing market, which we've seen in other indicators as well.
Okay, and the other one I'll just pick out, and this is primarily because of the 12-month rate, is motor vehicle.
Yes.
That's up by more than anything else over the full year.
It's large, isn't it? So our motor vehicle spending intentions, so we use our own internal loan data as well as Google searches. That was down 1% in October. So we know there's a lot of difficulty buying a new car in Australia at the moment. So some supply chain constraints impacting on your ability to actually secure a new car. So that's, I guess, one of the major thematics we're seeing in the broader global economy at the moment, and that's really pointed in the motor vehicle section. So very strong over the year. We've seen a big pickup in demand for cars. I think given the pandemic, people wanted a second car, use public transport less, so very strong demand, but certainly some supply constraints, meaning it is a lot more difficult to actually secure a car at the moment.
Stay with me, Belinda. We'll be back in a minute. My guest today is Belinda Allen, Director of Economics at the Commonwealth Bank and co-author of the Household Spending Intentions Report. Okay, as you go through the 12 different categories, were there any other major surprises to you, Belinda?
Not real surprises, but it is pleasing to see where we hoped consumers would start to spend again as restrictions are eased. We are seeing it. So big lifts in retail, so people getting out and about at department stores, smaller shops. We're seeing a pick up there. Entertainment. So we certainly saw a lot more people spend on eating out. I think we're all sick of our own cooking. I know I am. Yep. But also taking advantage of being able to go out to the movies and also see live shows at the moment. So that was really interesting. And then some of our other indexes that you wouldn't expect to see big moves month to month, such as insurance and utilities, are just kind of tracking as you would expect them to see.
What I did like about it when I sort of glanced at it first was that things that cost me money, utilities, finance, insurance costs, they were going down, and the things that I get a lot of, value out of, fun out of, retail, entertainment, travel, they were going up.
That's right. So that's an interesting way to think about it. So you could actually break the HSI down into your discretionary, your fun components, but also your non-discretionary components as well. So I think that's why this is so reflective of the overall consumer spending basket. We have to have those things in there we don't like spending our money on, but is incredibly vital, but also those fun things as well. And I think as we look into Christmas, as we look into the economy reopening, we see consumers wanting to spend money on, and we're seeing those transactions actually now take place.
I appreciate it's hard to have a trend after 1 month's figures. However, do you expect to see the same sorts of things like travel and retail doing well in the next few months in the run-up to Christmas?
So it certainly looks like there is a lot of pent-up demand in the Australian economy. We can see that through our high-frequency card spend data as well. So particularly with that reopening in Victoria gaining pace, you would expect that to flow through into November's HSI as well. We also know there's a huge amount of savings out there in the Australian economy by households. On our number, it's around $230 billion by the end of this year. So households have the money to spend. When they want to spend it, our data showing they're getting increasingly confident to go out there and spend it. So it does bode well as we look in to the next few months.
It seems to me one of the boom areas as a result of COVID is data, and the fact that people like the Commonwealth Bank and some of your competitors as well as others are really able to produce almost real-time data on the economy.
That's right. And we know there's so much power in data and to have it come out very quickly as well. So that's one of the things that we here at CommBank kind of pivoted to during the pandemic, is to look at what indicators we had internally to get us a really good read on the economy. Obviously, the official stats come out, but they come out with a lag. So it was how quickly can we get our own internal data to give us as you said, almost a real-time view about what's happening in the Australian economy. So we have our transactional and loan data, which is fantastic. We also look at the income flowing through into CBA bank accounts, and we can divide that up between wages and salaries, but government benefits as well, to give us a view on the other side. So not only what consumers are spending on, but what their income is doing as well. So those two bits of the puzzle give us a really great view about what's happening in the Australian economy, and particularly when there's turning points, just that high frequency data is incredibly important. So no doubt now that we've all set this up, we'll continue to get much more value out of it going forward.
So, but the $64 question is, of course, what is going to happen to the economy? Now, we have all this data, Belinda. What's your take? What's the Commonwealth Bank's take on what the next 12 months will be like?
So we're optimistic. I mean, the incredibly fast vaccination uptake here in Australia has really, I think, exceeded a lot of people's expectations. The fact that we've gone from being in lockdown to really adjusting to living with COVID a lot quicker than what we had expected has meant we're certainly a lot more upbeat on the prospects for economic growth as we look into 2022. So with that, though, comes challenges as well. So we're looking on the inflation side of the economy as well, building cost pressures coming through. We can see that through input prices from businesses. We did see that stronger inflation print come through in the third quarter as well. So growth will be good. Inflation will be picking up. And that means that we do expect the first interest rate hike by the Reserve Bank in 12 months' time in November, which is certainly earlier than what the Reserve Bank seems to be pushing against market expectations at the moment. So really strong recovery, improvements in the labour market, but also that means interest rates will need to be adjusted.
What does the Reserve Bank know that the market doesn't?
It's a great question. So when we look at how our thinking is different to the RBA, it really does come down to wages. So they think that wages growth will emerge much slower than what we think wages growth will emerge. I mean, we talk to our clients, key businesses, and they're seeing staff shortages. They're finding it hard to attract staff. So the natural, I guess, reaction to that is wages growth will have to emerge. But they seem to think it's going to take longer. We haven't had wages growth in the Australian economy, really since the mid-2010s, so around 2014, 2015. They think the Phillips curve is flat. It's going to take a much lower unemployment rate than it currently is to generate wages growth, whereas we think it will come through earlier. And I think that is really the big difference. I think they also think some of the inflation pressures that have emerged will be temporary. We don't have the sustained price pressures that we do expect will generate. So it's really, that's the difference. And they're certainly firmly pushing against market expectations on the interest rate side. But I guess in time we will see who is right.
We'll find out.
We will find out.
Belinda, thank you for talking to Fear and Greed.
Thanks very much, Sean.
That was Belinda Allen, Director of Economics at the Commonwealth Bank and co-author of the Household Spending Intentions Report. This is a Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join me every morning for the full Fear and Greed podcast with all the business news you need to know. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your day.